All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Alchemy Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Cartwright, and today is a special episode. This is going to be a solo podcast just to share my journey of the last couple of weeks from brain surgery to being diagnosed with grade 4 glioblastoma brain cancer, and all of my thoughts and my experiences in detail. And I'm even going to share later in the podcast, once I was in the hospital, I had some really powerful visions from my dad showed up, who passed away in 2011, to just getting some downloads and clarity about life from God. So I'm going to share those as we get into the podcast. And so I actually wanted to start this podcast off with a really fascinating experience that happened to me in November of 2023. So November of 2023 was the last time I sat with the plant medicine ayahuasca. So for those that know me or know my story, know that ayahuasca and psychedelics are a big part of my life. And I haven't participated in psychedelics in a while. 2017 was my first introduction into psychedelics. And those that have read my book, Holy Shit, We're Alive, know that story. But the last couple of years, I've kind of taken a break from plant medicine. I feel like my exploration phase has graduated or has evolved, and I just haven't been working with plant medicine for a while. And the reason being is the last time I did ayahuasca, November 2023, was that my entire experience was I had to wrestle, come to grips, and accept the fact that I have cancer. In the moment, it was so bizarre. It was overwhelming. It was stressful. And anyone who's ever done psychedelics know that when you're in that experience, the psychedelic experience, it feels very real. It feels like capital T truth. So this experience, I remember it was at a house up in northern Utah, and I was down in the basement in the bathroom, and I was just on the floor. And I was struggling because this insight comes to me that I have cancer and I have to accept it. So I had to wrestle with this idea. I had to fight with this idea. I was in denial, and it was so overwhelming and so stressful. And I remember thinking, on the bathroom floor in the middle of an ayahuasca ceremony, I was like, I can't believe I have cancer. And I can't believe I'm going to do this to my mom, to my siblings, to my friends. And for hours, I was at war with this idea. It was stressful. It was overwhelming. It was confusing. And finally, through the end of the psychedelic trip, I finally had to accept it. I had to come to grips and accept the fact that I have cancer. And I was totally convinced that I did at the time. And so I get out of that ceremony, and the first thing I do is I do the function blood test for cancer. Came back negative. I went and got a colonoscopy, came back super clean. And so I remember getting out of that ceremony and being so confused. I'm like, what was that all about? Like, that was so confusing. I was fully convinced I had cancer. And my thoughts at the time were like, okay, maybe I just need to start contemplating on death. And so I started meditating on my death. And so I remember leaving that ceremony in 2023 kind of confused. The other insight I got in that ceremony was that the medicine, Mother Ayahuasca, had told me, for those that are unfamiliar, you kind of engage with this entity, a feminine energy who kind of gives you direction that you can communicate with. And the insight was, don't come back to the ayahuasca space, or don't do ayahuasca again until you're in crisis. So my biggest takeaways from that ayahuasca experience in 2023 was I had to go through the mental experience of my consciousness of accepting and climbing the hill that I have cancer, and not to come back till I'm in crisis. So I actually left that ceremony really confused. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And so since that time, I haven't done ayahuasca. And so the reason I share that story at the beginning is because looking back at it, it was so powerful and so helpful for my experience, because I'd already gone through the mental acceptance part of dealing with it. So it wasn't new. So fast forward, we're now in where all of this begins is January 18th of 2026, just a couple of months ago. And I remember that date because I was watching the Bears playoff game and I was by myself. It was a Sunday night. I was at my house in my Eames chair where I normally watch football. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there watching the game. And I think Caleb Williams, those who are Bears fans, had like this epic throw. And I remember watching the game. And then there was this moment where I felt like I got pulled into like the depth of my mind in like this deja vu, otherworldly, kind of this schizophrenic way. And it pulled me into my thoughts, almost like I was getting drifted out of reality. And I remember thinking I was almost like frozen in time. And it was really bizarre. And I remember there was like a memory. It was like almost like I was chasing a distant memory in my mind that was so old that I had forgotten about it. But it was like resurfacing and I was trying to connect the dots of what it meant. And I was almost like frozen on my Eames chair. And I remember feeling kind of scared, but not sure what was going on, to the point where I literally had to snap my physical body out of that situation. And I actually gave my neck whiplash. Like I whipped my neck so bad that I pulled myself out of like this daze or this hallucination, and it hurt my neck. And I remember being like, that was the weirdest thing that ever happened. And so I remember just going to bed that night feeling really confused and like reviewing my day and thinking, what was that all about? And trying to piece it together. And I just could never put it together. So I just went to bed. And so I wake up the next morning and I have a home gym in my basement and I go in to do my workout and I'm still kind of not in reality. Like I just feel like one step out of reality, not fully in my body, almost like a little delay in life. And it was scary. And my workout wasn't that strong. And I felt like I was in, for anyone who's done psychedelics, there's like this moment where, whether it's psilocybin, mushrooms, whatever, you're like going into the space where like the psychedelic's about to kick in. It hasn't fully kicked in yet, but you're not in a normal reality. It's like this messy middle ground. And I remember feeling like I was stuck there. It's this really uncomfortable place. And I just was trying to like get back into my body. And I have a sauna in my backyard. And I remember feeling scared to go get in my sauna by myself. And I remember thinking like, what is going on? This is so weird. Like, I'm not quite myself. I'm not quite in reality. I'm kind of stuck in this middle ground. And so I go back up into my room and I chuggle. I'm like, maybe I'm dehydrated. I had just gotten this sauna and I've been sauna all day, every day, multiple times. And so I'm just sweating a ton. So I'm like, oh, I'm probably dehydrated. And so I put my symptoms into ChatGPT and it's like, yeah, these are the symptoms of dehydration. So I'm like, oh, I'm dehydrated. So I drink a huge bottle of water with lime and salt. And then I go and take a nap. Well, I wake up from this nap and I feel totally normal. I'm like back to myself again. So I'm like, just must have been dehydrated. So I remember too, it was the week of the college football playoff when Indiana won the national title. And I went down to a friend's house in Provo and I was totally fine. I'm like, cool, that was just a weird thing. I must have been dehydrated. And at that time in January, the following week, me and a bunch of friends were going to Finland. We went on a sauna cold plunge tour in Finland. And so that trip's coming up. So I message everybody. I'm like, hey, make sure you guys are hydrating. I just had like these weird dehydration symptoms that made me feel crazy. Make sure everyone's hydrated. So I go down to the college football championship game, feel totally great, have a good time. I'm normal, I'm myself. And then the next day I wake up and it's back. It's like this, I'm not quite myself. I'm almost disassociated from my body, almost like things don't quite feel real. And I remember being like, what is going on? This is so bizarre. And I wasn't myself. And so I'm like, I must be really dehydrated. And so I called an IV over. And so I have this doctor from the IV come over and he gives me an IV. And it turns out I was actually a friend I went to high school with. Shout out Parker. But so my friend from high school shows up and gives me this IV. And he puts this IV in my arm and then I instantly feel better. I'm like, oh, I must be so dehydrated. And so he gives me the IV. He gives me actually 2 bags because he said I was really dehydrated. And so I go outside, take a walk around my neighborhood, and I'm like, cool, I'm back. It's over. And so the rest of the day is totally fine. And then I wake up the next day and it's back. Just like this really weird, messy middle, kind of lost in consciousness, almost like you feel like you're living in the Matrix. So now I'm like really starting to get concerned. I'm like, something is wrong. Something is terribly wrong here. And then I would have these moments where like my body would start shaking. Like I'd get these waves of impending doom. I would just be hanging out of my house and this wave would hit me of like the world's about to end, sheer anxiety, sheer stress, panic, overwhelm, like AI is going to take over the world and we're all going to die right now, like overwhelming doom. And then it'd go away. And I remember thinking like something is terribly wrong here. Like I'm not okay. And I'd get these convulsions at the time. And so I decided, I think I need to go to the hospital, but I'm going to sleep it off. And so I go to bed one more time and then I wake up at 3:00 in the morning and I'm in sheer panic mode. Like the world is over. Everyone I know is going to die. I had this belief that my mom was actually going to die and I believed that my mom was dead. So like I was experiencing in my consciousness that my mom was dead. It was the worst experience I've dealt with. And so I called my mom. She answers. I'm like, Mom, I need you to take me to the hospital right now. So she comes over like, this is probably a little bit later now because I was like dealing with my mom's death. It was probably like 5:30 in the morning. And so I remember waiting for her. She lives like 15 minutes away from me. I remember waiting for her at my house and I was like pacing around my house. I was so anxious. I was having these thoughts of like, the world is over. We're all going to die. Like the worst thoughts ever. And I'm just shaking. And so I remember just waiting for my mom to come like, please hurry, Mom, please hurry, to the point where I literally was just taking laps around my house. Finally, she pulls up and I just get in the front seat and my body's like convulsing. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm dying. I remember having the thought like I might be dying. And so I go to St. Mark's Hospital. This is end of January. And they check me in. They're like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm having like a schizophrenic break, but my body is also convulsing. I'm not okay. And so they do a blood work. They check my EKG. They do my pulse and they don't scan my brain. Don't even think about scanning my brain. And they say, hey, all of your levels look fine. You're having an anxiety attack is what they told me. And I'm like, I don't think this is an anxiety attack. Like my life is amazing. I love what I do for work. I help people in this scenario. This is an anxiety attack. And they're like, well, all of your levels are totally fine. And you're kind of young to have an anxiety attack, but this is an anxiety attack. And I'm like, I don't think so. So I kind of fight back on it. And then they give me some anti-anxiety meds. And then they do a telehealth video call with like someone who's in the mental health space. And I'm just like, my life is amazing. I don't think this is an anxiety attack. And then they try to give me antidepressant meds that I wasn't really into. And so I go home and I'm feeling sick and I actually go stay with my mom. And then I wake up, that first night out of being in the hospital. So they discharge me. I wake up middle of the night with another panic attack, like sheer terror, like this wave. It's not like a normal panic attack where you're kind of nervous about a situation. It's literally like you can feel this wave coming in and it's like a tsunami and it takes you on and it's crazy, unrealistic, impending doom. Like Terminator is going to come and kill it, like crazy stuff that makes no sense. The stock markets are going to crash and the world's going to burn down and like it's all happening right now. So it hits me again at like 3 a.m. at my mom's house. And luckily, one of my best friends, Julian, was in town. And so I call him really late at night and he comes over just to like ground me. And it felt like I was detached from my body. Like it felt like I was hovering outside of my body and I couldn't get back into my body. And so I'm just freaking out. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this isn't an anxiety attack. This isn't a panic attack. There's definitely something happening in my body. And I had no idea at the time. And so eventually I calm down, I wind down, the wave goes, right? And it was really interesting is every time there was a wave, I'd get like this tingling in my chest. It felt really tight and there'd be like this tingling in my chest. And so the next day I was like Googling these symptoms, and someone on Reddit was saying, hey, when you have like these deja vu or impending doom waves followed by tightness in the chest, it's a seizure. And I remember thinking that like, I'm not having a seizure because I'm like still active in my body. Like I'm not having convulsions really. And I remember being a little concerned when I read that they were seizures, but I didn't follow up with the doctor. And so I kind of dismissed it, and I kept studying and Googling my symptoms. And I came across something called DPDR, which stands for depersonalization and derealization. And what that means is that there's these weird cases where people who are experiencing high anxiety in their life or have a really intense medical experience happening through maybe it's a bad drug experience, their consciousness actually detaches from their body to protect them from something bad happening. So they don't have to fully experience the physical harm happening. And I'm like, this is what it is. I have this thing called DPDR, and it's just the symptom of anxiety. And so I started doing all this research on it because the symptoms are totally lining up. I'm not quite myself. I feel detached from my body. I feel like I'm in the Matrix. My mood has changed. I'm having these weird deja vu moments. I'm having these weird impending doom moments. And the thing that's crazy, guys, is every time I had one of these, I was actually having a seizure. I was actually having a seizure. I had no idea. It's called the silent seizure, and it's when your brain seizes up, because at the time I had no idea, but there's a massive tumor growing in my brain that's pushing up against my brain, causing these silent seizures. And I had no idea. So there's this tumor in the brain causing all of this mayhem. I have no clue. And so I'm trying to figure out anything. So at this time, I think, maybe I stopped taking some peptides. So maybe I'm having peptide withdrawal. So I play that out. And at this point, I'm just grasping for anything. I'm in this detective mode of trying to figure out whatever it could be. And so shortly after that is our trip to Finland. So me and some of my best friends, we get on a plane and we jump on a plane to Finland. And I'm nervous because I'm not quite myself. I'm a little detached from reality, and I'm scared to be away from the States and my family in case something bad happens. And so we fly to Finland. I'm feeling pretty good. We get to kind of like our first sauna cold plunge. Everything's great. The next day, we're at a different sauna cold plunge. We wrap up our session. We're having lunch. And I get this crazy wave of anxiety, feeling so stressed, feeling like the world's about to end. My heart's beating out of my chest. And I have to tell the guys, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, but I need to go home. So my dear friend, Casey Baugh, was such a homie. He's like, hey, I'll go home with you. So we have a driver. The driver takes us back to the Airbnb. I go and take an anxiety med, and I go take a nap. I wake up from the nap feeling much better. And I go downstairs, and I remember in this really cool Airbnb in like the forest in Finland. And I see the neighbor kids across the street, like sledding down the hill, and this deja vu wave hits me. Again, it's another silent seizure. And so I'm like freaking out. I've seen this before. This is from a movie. I'm in the Truman Show. And so these thoughts are all happening to me. And I'm actually, my consciousness is like still rooted. Like my soul is still there witnessing all of this. So like I'm the witness of these thoughts and these experiences, which is fully in alignment with my spiritual beliefs. And so I'm like the witness of all of this happening. And I'm like freaking out on the external, but like my soul is steady. And so I have these deja vu waves, and then they go away. And so we go through the rest of the trip. And what's interesting is I only remember about 20% of the trip. My short-term memory kind of went wacky there for a little bit, but I do remember having another deja vu, AKA silent seizure moment later in Finland. And then on the way home, on the airplane home, I had another silent seizure. And so Again, at the time, I just called them deja vu moments because I was having DPDR is what I thought it was. And I was just battling with it. And I was just reading DPDR manuals, just hoping that eventually I'd figure it out and it would just go away. And it just seemed to get worse. And people that know me knew that I just was not myself. I was really quick to anger, which is opposite of me because I'm the most chill dude ever. I remember getting home from Finland and going to get my hair cut by Camera, shout out Cam. And she was like 5 minutes late. And I remember that made me really mad. And that is not me at all. So my consciousness, like the witness, I would call it behind it. I know that these things are happening. I'm like, this isn't me. What is going on? And I'm trying to figure out anything to get this to stop in hopes that one day it'll end. And then the migraines start happening. And I would get these headaches that were just soul crushing. They would come and they would go. And it felt like someone was blowing up a balloon inside my head and that my head was about to pop. And so for all of the month of February, I probably operated at about 15%. I'm a coach. And so taking coaching calls, I just have to like muster up the courage to just pull it together. It was so difficult. I was fighting for my life. My work seemed harder. My workouts were harder. And I was just detached from myself. And I was so frustrated. I was so ready for it to be over. And these migraines would just come in and they'd get me and tackle me. And they'd come and go in waves. And it felt like they'd come more often. As the month of February was wrapping up, going into March, they would come more often and they would stay longer. And so, luckily, my neighbor next door, Nicole, she's so sweet. She reached out to me out of the blue and was like, hey, I would love to have you over for coffee. And so I would love to go over for coffee. And so I went over there. I'm like, I just need to do normal things. I just need to get back out into the world because I felt like I couldn't go out in public because I was so detached from reality. Like I just wasn't myself. That I was nervous that I'd be acting weird or feeling stressed or getting these waves of anxiety or that I'd have like a impending doom moment. I didn't want to be out in public. And so my friend Nicole invites me over and I'm like, great, I'll go over there, try and get back into reality. And so I walk into Nicole's house and she's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, Nicole, can I be honest with you? I am not doing well at all. She's like, what? She's like, what's going on? And I'm like, have you ever heard of DPDR? She's like, yes. And I'm like, I have it. And she's like, you do? I'm like, how do you know DPDR? She's like, oh, I've had it. I'm like, you've had DPDR? I'm like, what happened? And she's like, well, earlier this year, it was last year, there was a leak in my basement under my AC and a bunch of mold grew under my AC and it was blowing mold through my house and the mold triggered my DPDR. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have mold in my house. So after about a month after moving into my new house, when I moved back to Utah, a pipe under the kitchen broke. And for overnight, there was a massive flood in my kitchen where I'm talking like water down the walls, through the ceiling, about an inch of water in the basement, like flood everywhere. And so initially I'm like excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's mold. This whole thing has been mold. So I get really excited. I finally have an answer. I've been so sick and I finally have an answer. So I immediately grab a bag and I get out of my house and I'm like, we're going to work on a restoration and get the mold out. So I move in with my sister and initially I feel better because I feel excited that I have an answer. So I think that I'm getting better. However, I don't get better. My migraines actually keep getting worse. My headaches are getting worse. I'm losing a lot of weight. My average weight, I normally sit around like 205 to 210 is my average weight. And I get down to like 190. So I'm losing a ton of weight. And then when I'm at my sister's house, I start throwing up. So I start throwing up multiple times a day. I'm not sure why. The only thing I can keep down is eggs. And so I'm thinking that I have mold poisoning. Like I have toxic mold poisoning in my body and we've got to, clean out that house. And at the point I thought I had to move. I'm like, I'm gonna have to move out of my house. I'm gonna have to burn all my things. Like it was over. And so luckily my sister lined me up with a mold doctor someone who helps with, toxicity. So I start meeting with this mold doctor, and he wants to do some blood work. So I'm paying for blood work. I'm doing everything I can to do detoxes. I'm hiring a detox coach. I hired a health coach. I'm like, get this mold out of my freaking body so I can be normal again. Then we went to go see the new Ryan Gosling movie, Project Hail Mary. And I get to that theater, and I'm just, by the way, at this point in my life, I'm looking terrible. Like, I'm skin and bones. My hair, my skin is yellow. I just look really sick. And in Project Hail Mary is when the migraine that ends all migraines came. And I get this migraine that is just devastating. Like, fetal position, can't move. And it's just so overwhelming that I had to leave the movie early. So I remember walking out of the movie, and I text my mom. I'm like, hey, I need you to come with me. So she follows me to my sister's house because I've been staying there because I thought I had mold in my house. And the migraine just doesn't go away. And so I'm in this fetal position for multiple days. And then I start throwing up a ton. I'm pale yellow, like I'm not well. So I called my buddy Brock, and I'm like, who's that ER doc? And I'm like, Brock, like, what do you know about mold? I have so much mold poisoning. And he was the first one that kind of pushed back on it. He goes, Doug, like, I don't think it's mold poisoning, man. Like, to get that level of toxic mold poisoning, you have to be incredibly exposed to the mold. And it's usually not in areas like Utah. Like, yeah, you can get it, but like to get to the level of sick you are, it's just really rare. I just don't think it's mold, man. I think you should just go to the ER. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to go to the ER to tell me that I have anxiety and they're going to charge me $15,000 again. As I'm not having insurance, you have to pay out of pocket for this. And so that's why I resisted going to the ER. And then finally, I'm looking so sick that my brother and my sister are like, Doug, we are taking you to the emergency room right now. And so finally, after kind of resisting and pushing it, March 25th, I decided to go to the ER. So my brother drops me off at the ER, and right when we get to the ER, I just immediately throw up again. My headache is so bad. It is so intense, like to the point I'm moaning. I had to get into a wheelchair, and I'm just moaning in the ER. So as I'm in the waiting room, I'm just waiting to get help. And I'm in so much pain, like level 10, the most pain I've ever been in. And so finally I get into a room, my mom shows up, and they're like, what's going on? I'm like, I have a level 10 migraine. I can't even think straight. I can't. And I was wearing an eye mask because the light was so bright. And my mom, luckily, was like, hey, I want you to scan his brain. And the doctor's like, well, that's not normal protocol for migraines, but if it'll make you feel better, we'll do it. So it's just fascinating that we had to push for a scan. My mom's like, yeah, it would make us feel better. Scan his brain. So shout out Margie for being tough. So at this point, they do give me some drugs for the headache. They give me, I think it's called Dilaudid, which is a hell of a drug. So like my pain is like instantly gone. So they give me a CT scan, and then they come back and they're like, his brain is swelling. We need to go give him an RI. It's a little alarming. And I had a lot of friends come, like my friend Scotty and Casey Baugh and Chelsea Baugh came to the hospital. And this point I'm on opioids. So I'm just like in and out of consciousness, just kind of like these flashes of these memories of my friends there. And so they go and give me the MRI. And I shared this on my last podcast, but by the time they wheeled me back to the room, I had fallen asleep. And so I'm asleep, completely passed out. And then all of a sudden I wake up and it's like 6 a.m. and my mom is sitting there. Everyone else had left. And I could tell, there was a trash can next to her with all these tissues in it. Like the whole trash can was just filled with tissues. And I'm like, Mom, why am I still here? What's going on? And I could tell it was serious. And she's just like, the doctor came in at 1 a.m. You were asleep. You have a massive brain tumor in your brain that looks like really intense cancer. And we have to go into emergency surgery. And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. I was stunned. And so, there's so much divine timing here. Just coincidentally, the doctor on call, his name's Dr. Chuck Rich. I know some in Utah probably have done work by him as well. One of the best surgeons in the state, if not the country, just happened to be on call that night. And I feel really, really confidently in my body that the reason I waited so long to go in is that I needed to have Chuck, Dr. Rich, do my surgery. And so his team, it was early Thursday morning. He wanted his team to have a full day of rest and then do the surgery first thing Friday morning. So Thursday, I'm just in the ICU and they're giving me a bunch of drugs. I don't really remember it. I know I said some inappropriate things. I have a friend who recently got a boob job who came to visit me, and I made sure to let everyone know who else visited me that my friend had gotten a boob job. And so I'm just on drugs, having a good time, kind of waiting for this surgery. And then Friday morning rolls along, March 27th, and it's time for surgery. They tell my family, my family was all there to help me through the surgery. They tell my family it's going to take about 2 hours. And I have this really special memory. And I remember there was a lot of things to be nervous about before the surgery. It's possible that they could hit something in my brain that caused me to have to relearn how to talk. They could hit something in my brain where I have to learn how to walk or redo motor functions. And so it was a really serious surgery and it was scary. And I remember having my family in the ICU and feeling really scared. And I started to cry. And these tears kind of slowly roll down my face, and my siblings come to gather me. We're all kind of holding hands and hugging before I go into the surgery. And I asked my mom to play a Ram Dass song. It's called My Heart Song by Ram Dass. It's just a really beautiful, kind of a lighthearted song. And I just listened to it and I just cried. And I remember thinking, this is a really special moment. And I don't want to push away the fear or push away the grief. And you know how when you in those moments of sadness or fear and you kind of feel that start coming up in your chest? And I remember I'm not going to push this moment away. I'm just going to relax into it and just feel the beauty of the love surrounded by my family and my mom. And it was just a very sad, scary moment. And I just leaned into it. I didn't grab it. I didn't push it away. I just leaned into it and just felt the love. I felt the sadness. And then I got wheeled into surgery. They told my family it was going to take 2 to 3 hours. And shout out Dr. Chuck Rich, took him 6.5 hours. And they cut my brain open right here, put a hole in my skull, and for 6 hours they removed the tumor. And luckily they got full removal of the tumor. And what was crazy was within about 30 minutes of kind of coming back to normalcy, I remember my soul came back. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm myself again. My personality's back. My mindset's back. I'm not trapped in the matrix. I feel totally normal. It was almost instantaneously because that tumor was causing so much havoc and pressing up on my hippocampus and changing my personality and changing my mindset and giving me these silent seizures. So I remember feeling so much relief after surgery. I'm like, I'm totally myself. I'm back. I'm back. And I remember feeling so excited because for 3 months, I was not myself. I was stuck. This tumor had caused so much havoc in my body. And so post-surgery, I was in the hospital. I had lots of friends and family come and visit me and slowly started to get my strength back and everything looked great. So excited that we got a full tumor removal. And one thing that I think that was going on for me is I was so caught up in the surgery that I don't think at the time I comprehended the magnitude of cancer. I remember thinking oh, I got the tumor out, so I'm good. When really I didn't really comprehend at the time. I don't know why. Maybe it was just a gift from God that, with tumors is cancer. And so there was these kind of 2 days post-surgery where I was kind of excited. And in one of those 2 nights, I had a really powerful moment. I remember it was 3:00 in the morning post-surgery. And my dad, who passed in 2011, comes to me in this vision and wakes me up. And he's with, my best friend, Scotty. His mom died a couple of years ago, and she was like my second mom. And I see Andy and my dad together. And they just assured me that everything was going to be okay. And I see my dad. It's interesting. I've done a lot of psychedelics. I've done a lot of meditation, breath work. I almost never have experiences with my dad. one time in ayahuasca years ago. So this is really kind of the second time I've ever had an experience with my dad. And he just tells me, he's like, hey, everything's going to be okay. Everything's taken care of. Don't worry about the logistics. Don't worry about the treatment of where you're going to do treatment. Don't worry about the financial costs because I'm not insured. It's all going to be taken care of. This is perfectly designed and orchestrated on the other side. And don't waste any of your time and energy feeling anxious. And I was like, wow. Okay. And it showed me, it was really cool. He showed me that he has like this clipboard that he carries around. And on this clipboard is each of my siblings' names and my mom's name. And he has like this checklist. And he just showed me, there's like, hey, I'm so involved in your life. And I'm here to help you on your path and on your journey. And I help you. He helps check off these boxes. And it was just so reassuring to me at the time that like, my dad is way more involved in my life than I realize. We have so much support on the other side. And that was a thought that I don't think I ever really believed in that much. It's so true. And, maybe this is a good time to put this in before I go into the next part of the story. But let's rewind here to 2023, same year. I'm living in LA. And I started to praying again. And in 2023, I start praying again. And I pray to, dear God, my Mormon Heavenly Father, ayahuasca, universal source energy, King of the universe, all intelligence. I kind of pray that those are kind of the names I use. And in 2023, I started praying again. And I kind of asked for this. I would kneel down to pray. And it's almost about a year straight I did this. I would start off with my gratitudes. Dear God, thank you for my health, for my family, for my business, for another day, for the sun and living in beautiful California and my friendships and the food I get to eat. And then I would ask God to make my life incredibly difficult. Dear God, make my life so hard. Give me all of the challenges. Give me the most difficult experiences that I can handle so that I can learn, so that I can grow, so that I can become the best version of myself. And that was my prayer. Make my life as difficult as I can possibly handle so I can have strength. Make it so difficult. And that was my prayer for about a year. And my dad just showed me that he's so involved in our lives. And then I got this other vision. It's fascinating. I'll never be the same after seeing this. And it showed me that God is so intentionally involved in every experience of our lives, that there are no errors, there are no mistakes, that every trial and every obstacle and every situation that we face is the most perfect scenario we need for the evolution and growth of our soul. Say that again. Every obstacle and trial that we face is the perfect scenario that we need, the perfect curriculum that we need for our soul to evolve to become the highest and best version of ourselves. Perfect does not mean pleasant. Perfect does not mean peaceful. Perfect means this is the exact thing that you need, that I need for us to grow and expand to be the best version of ourselves. And it showed me that if we truly could comprehend this at the deepest level, that we would never waste a single moment feeling anxious or fearful, because we know that our divine curriculum is perfectly set up for us to grow and expand and learn and get better, and that it's actually happening for our highest and best self. And it blew me away, because in this vision, I could see to the smallest detail that there aren't any coincidences, that there aren't any mistakes, that there aren't any errors by any means, but we are in the exact perfect moment, that you can't screw it up. You cannot screw it up. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. The fear is perfect. The grief is perfect. The anger is perfect. The insecurity is perfect. You're doing it absolutely perfect. You can't screw it up. And you don't have to go search for your growth. You don't have to go search for the level up. It will be hand delivered to you on a platter right in front of you. Your work and your evolution and your dharma is the trials and obstacles that are happening right in front of your face. And so a lot of you have seen me on social media talking about my cancer and whatnot. And I want to share a tool with you that I've used that I think that's helped me be so optimistic. So post surgery, I get out of the hospital, I have these visions, and I get to get checked out, and I get to go stay with my mom. And for the first maybe 2 days post surgery, getting checked out of the hospital, I was floating. I remember getting home, and I had this really special moment with my mom where we were talking about the cancer diagnosis and the magnitude of this. And I remember going on a walk around her house and just feeling so much peace, this peace in my core. And my eyesight and my hearing actually increased. I thought I was going to lose my senses, but it actually increased. The color red looked so bright. The birds chirping sounded amazing. And so I spent a couple of days in my mom's house kind of recovering, and I had a lot of great visitors. And then came time to get the oncology report. And so we get our first oncology report, and it's just not good. Eventually, as we got more oncology reports, where my diagnosis is today is I'm a grade 4 glioblastoma IDH wild type brain cancer. It's the deadliest type of brain cancer. It's the fastest growing type of brain cancer. And the average life expectancy is, 12 to 15 months. And that's a serious thing. It's a real thing. And where I'm at on that today is it's fascinating to me how that is more uncomfortable for people than it is for me. I'll tell people, I'm like, yeah, I've got 12 to 14 months. And they tend to get really uncomfortable. And for me, I hope I don't live 12, 14 months. I hope I live 12 to 15 years. But it's important for me to say that, because when you hear people like, oh no, you're going to beat it, it's all good, it's going to be amazing. What I'm feeling in that is that there's actually a lot of fear there. People are suppressing that. And for me, I have to own it. I have to own that I could die in a year. I have to own that it's possible that this might be my last year. And I don't want any fear in my body. I have to absolutely own that. And so moving forward after this experience, as I've kind of settled back into my work routines, I'm moving into my treatments, as I'm still trying to lock in, hopefully I can get into some clinical trials here. There's some really cool stuff. I'm going to try and get this Germany vaccine here as well. And I'm raising money for that on my GoFundMe. That link will be in the bio here. But what my spiritual beliefs on it now is like, I know this isn't an error, and this is my curriculum for life, and that perfect does not mean pleasant. And so as I've embraced this reality that I might die soon, there's been 3 things that I wanted to share of ways of thinking, ways of being that have helped me handle the magnitude of brain cancer. And I call them 3 A's. The first A is I accepted it. I have to accept the fact that I have a terminal illness and I have a deadly cancer that's going to kill me. I have to accept that. If I were to fight with the reality of that, I would lose every time. So I have to accept that. That doesn't mean I prefer it. That doesn't mean I want it to happen. That doesn't mean that it's pleasant. That doesn't mean that I'm calling it in, but I have to accept reality. Michael Singer, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, says, how do you define reality? That which has happened, period. What has happened? I got diagnosed with grade 4 brain cancer. I accept that. Now I'm not resisting. Now I'm not pushing it away. Now I'm not sweeping it under the rug, because if I push things away, psychology 101, what you push away gets bigger, right? So I'm not going to push it away. I'm not going to press up against it. I'm going to let it all the way in, right? Second A is allow. I have to allow all emotions tied to this experience. And boy, is it a roller coaster. There are days when I wake up and I'm like, there's no way this thing's going to kill me. I'm going to live for 20 years. And this is part of my book and part of my speaking gig. And I'm the guy that's going to beat this. And I feel super confident. And then there's other days where the grief wave comes where I'm just sitting there in this wave, this tsunami of grief. You can feel it coming, and I feel it coming in, and I melt into it. I don't push it away. I don't press up against it. I don't run from it. I don't deny it. I allow it all the way. And I get pulled under these waves, and I'm suffocating, and I'm on my knees, and I'm sobbing, and I'm crying, and there's denial, and there's frustration, and these moments come, and I accept them, and I let them in, and I allow, and I allow, and I allow. And the visualization that I love is that I'm laying on a beach, and the wave comes, and it's freezing cold water, and I'm in my clothes, and it gets me wet, and I get salt water up my nose and up my eyes. And for a brief moment, it is so unpleasant. I don't prefer it at all. But then the wave will goes back into the ocean. And when the grief wave goes away, for a brief moment, I can taste the love that is the foundation of grief. The reason we have grief is because we have love. I feel the grief of losing my mom and my siblings and passing away, and I feel grief for them that they have to go through this experience, and it is so sad. And I allow every emotion, and then I allow the emotion of uncertainty. What's the dying process going to be like? When am I going to die? The uncertainty with that. And then I just allow it. I allow it all the way in. And just like any emotion, it's not permanent. It's going to come and it's going to go. And they're going to come and they're going to go. And then the third A is I affirm. I affirm myself. I can handle the curriculum that God has given me. I can handle this. I can be with this uncertainty. I can be with this diagnosis. I can be with the reality that I'm dying. I can be with that. I'm not going to push up against it. I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to deny it. I'm going to be with it. Right? I remind myself, I'm willing to feel this. I'm willing to feel the sadness. I'm willing to feel the grief. I'm willing to be suffocated, an unbearable amount of frustration and sadness, and I'm willing to feel it. So these 3 A's, this is kind of the foundation of my next book. Really, this whole experience has given me a lot of content for my book. But these are the 3 A's that I've used to help me navigate my brain cancer diagnosis. And so you look at your own life, like where, if you have experiences that happen in your life, use these 3 A's, the 3A formula. Number 1, accept it. You have to accept reality, right? You cannot change that which has happened. No one in the history of the world has ever changed that which has happened. You have to accept reality. 2, allow it. Allow it all in. The grief, the sadness, the disappointment, the insecurity. Allow it in and don't touch it. Be with it. Surrender to it. So you hear a lot about surrender, right? Spiritually surrender. And what I've come to learn is that surrender is something you do inside, not outside. You don't surrender to, whatever life unfolds and people telling you what to do and whatnot. No. Surrender is an internal experience. It's not fighting the emotional discomfort. So step 1, you accept it. Step 2, you allow it all in. Allow it all the way in. And 3, you affirm to yourself, I got this. I can handle this. And that has been my methodology of being able to handle this diagnosis. And I know that if I can handle this, man, I can handle anything. And so I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. Where I'm at now on it now, we're turning the corner into May. I'm going to start radiation soon and trying to get into some clinical trials I can. Luckily, I literally today got my MRI result back and there's no regrowth, which is fantastic news. And this whole experience is going to change me. I know that the way I view life is so different now. I'm so much more present. I know that life is truly perfectly unfolding exactly the way it needs to, given where we are on an evolution of soul growth. And it is so beautiful. And I just feel really called to share about it. Don't be afraid to talk about death, right? We're all dying. Most of us hide death behind a curtain, right? We're all dying. I'm dying, right? Some of us might die before me. I don't know. But it's important that we talk about it and we don't run away from the emotions tied to it. So I'm a big believer that the number one skill you can learn in your life is the willingness to feel unpleasant emotions. Whatever emotions you have tied to death or insecurity, jealousy, anger, frustration, be willing to feel it. Let it all the way in. The reason I've been able to navigate my cancer journey with such grace is because I've been willing to feel all of the emotions that are tied to this diagnosis, especially when they seem big and scary and unbearable. But I promise you, you can feel them. I promise you that if you open up your heart and quiet your mind and let it all the way in, you can navigate any storm. So I just got to let you know that I love you guys. Thank you for those who have supported the GoFundMe. I can't believe how much we've raised in 3 days. I just have so much gratitude in my heart. My heart is exploding with love. I've never felt more loved in my entire life. This journey is incredible. It's astonishing. And I've never felt more alive. And no one can take away my choice to enjoy my brain cancer journey. So I want you to know that I love you and I think about you guys, and I read every comment, I see every message, and I see every heart and like on Instagram. So want you guys to know from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys, and I'm going to give this my absolute best shot, and I'm going to do it with an open heart and a quiet mind. Love you guys.